And that's honestly, if I had to pick out like one flaw that I see the most with guys out of anything, it would be a lack. In order to date effectively, you need to have ice in your veins. And this is something I want to talk about because of a conversation I had recently with a guy who was really getting down on himself after going through a series of girls ghosting him, flaking on him, that kind of thing. And this happens to everyone. I've been ghosted, I've been flaked on, I've had all that stuff happen, just like you guys. You know, we all go through it. There's no guy out here that's just not getting ghosted or flaked on at least one time or another. The goal is to never eliminate it fully because it's not possible. The goal is more so to win more than you lose. I always compare dating to gambling in a way because I have a sports gambling background for, 8 or 9 years or so. It wasn't something that I was professional at or anything like that. It was something I always did more as a hobby. But the math game element of sports gambling was always very interesting to me. You guys might see me cut some of this footage in the edit because, as you can see, the lighting is very inconsistent where I'm at, and there's loud shit across the street. Anyway, what I was gonna say is, I did get to know some of the best players in the world, in the sports gambling world, and I specifically would play a lot of daily fantasy sports, so not just straight sports betting. But one of the most valuable things I learned from that area of life was that it's not about being 100%. You can't win 100% of the time. It's not possible. However, the best guys in the world when it comes to gambling, they win more than the average player does. And that gives them enough of an ROI to be elite. It gives them enough of an ROI to be multimillionaires in some cases. And you want to think about dating in the same way. You're never going to win 100% of the time. It's not going to happen. The point is to sharpen things to where you win more than you lose. So when you start letting things get you down, like, oh, I got ghosted, or this girl flaked, or this and that, like all these things start to bother guys a lot as you go through the process. So the thing is when you start to let individual factors bother you, like taking a loss in gambling, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You want to focus on the process over time. You want to be a winning player over time. You want to find the women over time that you actually want to interact with and that you want to have around, whether that's a relationship or, again, casual dating, whatever you want to do. But the idea is you're never going to be 100%. You're going to have to go through the BS. You're going to have to dig through the trash to find the gems. And that's just how it goes. It's the same way for everybody. What makes one guy different from the next, though, what makes a guy who's successful with women overall or above average is he just tends to win more than he loses. So another thing about this is the reason why you want to focus more on the process rather than specific outcomes is that you will start to internalize things in a very negative way if you're always focused on outcomes. It sounds cliche in a way to, focus on the process, but it really is true. Like you have to focus on just doing the right things every day, getting exposure to girls, talking to girls on a regular basis, maximizing your look, doing these things, sharpening your game. As long as you're making the right moves over time, you are going to see success. Now, on the other hand, if you get to a point where, you've talked to 500 girls and had success with 0 of them, that's a different problem. Something's very wrong there. But for most guys, it's not going to be that bad per se, but it's not going to be perfect either. And that's where you have to have ice in your veins with the whole process. If one girl falls off, who cares? If this girl flakes last minute, who cares? If there's this one girl that, you thought was really hot or you thought you might like her and she vanishes for some reason, her ex-boyfriend comes back, who cares? And really this is like the root of the abundance mindset, right? You hear about the abundance mindset a lot. I've even referenced it. What it really comes from is just knowing that there's so much more out there still. Like this one girl doesn't matter. These 2 or 3 girls don't matter. Like there's just so many out there. It's hard to really comprehend it. And I've referenced this a lot in my content. And the fact that literally if you just go like one city over, all of a sudden you've opened up like 200,000 options depending on where you live. It might even be more than that, or it might be less. It depends where you're at, right? There's so many women out there. So tripping over one just doesn't make any sense. However, if you've been in scarcity, if you've been at a point where it's really hard to get dates, you haven't had any success, you haven't had a girlfriend, when that girl does pop up, it's hard to not tunnel vision on that. It's like you're a starving man who finally found food. You're just gonna wanna like devour that food, right? What do they tell the guy What do they tell people who have been starving? You know, they've been lost on an island or the Amazon rainforest or something. They've been starving for a long time. What do they tell them when they come back to civilization? Eat slow. You can't just start devouring a bunch of cakes and cookies. It's going to do damage to your health. It's going to mess you up. It's very similar when you're coming out of scarcity with girls. Go slow things down. Remember, be cool. And that's part of the whole having ice in your veins thing, is always be cool under fire, cool no matter what happens. It doesn't matter what happens with this girl. It's not about individual outcomes. It's about winning over time. And that's really how you develop having ice in your veins. It also comes from just going through the process a lot. Like I had a client the other day, he's like, how can I become like cold like you? And I was laughing at that because I don't think I'm cold per se. Like cold to me sounds almost like a sociopath or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's not me. Like, I'm empathetic, I'm sympathetic, I'm cool with people, I'm warm towards the people around me, I'm giving towards those people around me, I care about people. So when I think about those attributes, I don't think I'm cold per se. But he meant it more in terms of like, how do you just shrug off these negative scenarios when they pop up? Part of it, honestly, is just, I don't view them as negatives. I even hesitate sometimes in videos when I'm filming if I say something like, you know, it doesn't matter if you win or you lose with this girl. I don't even like to say the phrase lose because it's not a loss. And that's where a lot of this mindset comes from, and having ice in your veins is I don't view things as a loss. For me, it's like you win or you learn. Again, another cliche saying, but it's very true. There really is no loss when there's so many women. Like, I wish I could just take this part of my brain and implant it in some of you guys so you would really feel what I'm saying. It's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to feel it. But there really is no losing. Why is there no losing? You know, someone out there might think, how's there no such thing as a loss with women? I really like this girl, or I was really in love with her. We had a long relationship, or this girl is really hot, or whatever your circumstance may be, or however you feel. The reason it's not a loss is there's just so many more. I just have to keep coming back to that. There's so many more. There's so many more women out there. Like, if you keep returning your mind to that point of origin, it ingrains that ice in your veins type of mentality. You shrug things off. See, what guys usually do, let's use approaching as an example. What guys will do is they'll see like one girl, they'll be like, oh man, she's so hot. And if they actually get the nerve up to approach her, which rarely happens, they'll go approach her, get rejected, and then go, oh shit, I'm not doing that again. And then they stop, right? A guy who really has that abundance mindset or has that ice in his veins type of outlook will go up to a girl, get rejected, and then immediately turn around and just hit up another girl. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, picture being in a nightclub. One girl rejects, boom, I'm out, on to the next one. Who cares? And even if you have to audibly say it out loud to yourself, that can even help. I'm a big fan of using words to override thoughts. When you have negative thoughts, the way you override them is through your words, your speech, what you say, your self-talk. If your self-talk is negative, it's gonna hold you back. It's gonna crush you. It's gonna make everything so difficult. So literally, if you approach a girl, she shoots you down as you're walking away, tell yourself, who cares? I took the shot. Focus on the process. You took the shot. That's what matters. It doesn't matter. That individual outcome doesn't matter. And again, there's a certain point where outcomes do matter. You know, if you approach 500 girls and literally 0 pan out, you need to fix something in the process. But as a general mindset, you got to be ice cold to all this stuff. It can't move you. And also, don't celebrate the wins too much either. That's another big thing, is like, or what you perceive as a win. That's another thing too. Like, when I was just talking about how I don't view things as losses, you don't want to really view things as wins either. You don't want to get too high off your own supply. You know, you don't want to get too high off the wins, because if you get supercharged off the wins, or what you perceive as a win, when you experience something that you feel like is a loss, it's going to tear you down, right? You have these emotional spikes up and down, up and down. But if you're more steady all the time, then the positives or the perceived negatives, they just don't affect you as much. You're not moved as much by those things, right? So just be more even keel with your emotions. When something good happens, cool. But part of that is embodying a winner's mindset too. A lot of the time, like, when winners win, they already were expecting to win. That's why they're a winner. They just expect it to happen, you know? So when you start getting those wins, It's not really surprising. It's just part of the process. Like one of the main things I teach with clients is succeeding on dating apps. You know, if once you learn the game of dating apps and you understand how they work, you can literally fish from that pond forever. So, I mean, just in the last like 2 days, got like 3-4 numbers off dating apps, but that's just part of the process though. That's normal. That's just what happens when you understand the strategy and the positioning and all that and how to go through that process. So when that happens, I'm not like fist pumping in the air like, oh, got some numbers, let's go, baby. You know, it's more just like, cool, you know, success marker, I guess. You know, I don't really base my success in life off things like that. But in terms of like that one specific thing, if I'm looking to date, then obviously it's a positive signal. It's better than not getting a number. But I'm not popping bottles either and celebrating it like that. That's how you want to be too. That's where you get the ice in your veins from. You're just chill both ways. Something that used to rise up in me when I was younger is I would see a girl that was like really my type. And I would think to myself, okay, I really want to get this girl, right? You might notice this rise up inside of you. And I've talked to a lot of guys that go through the same thing. You'll feel this feeling of like, okay, that's the one I really want. And then this thought might cross your mind of, okay, well, what do I do with the one I really want? How do I get the one I really want? And the answer to that is nothing. You do the same exact thing with that girl as you would do with any other girl. There's a lot of truth to treating the 9 like a 5 and just treating them all the same, essentially. Treat them all like they're 5s. You know, when you're with a girl that you don't have much of attraction to, that's where you're gonna be at your most natural. You're not gonna try hard. You're not gonna do anything. You're just gonna be, you're gonna express yourself. You're not gonna be afraid of making a bad impression per se. You're gonna let it fly. And that's what you need to do with that. And that goes along with having the ice in your veins mentality. Because when you have ice in your veins, you don't worry about blowing it or quote unquote blowing it. Do you need help? Which way are you trying to go? Are you trying to go this way? That way? Is it locked or just have to pull it harder? Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, I'll turn you this way.
Oh, bless you.
You good? Okay.
Bless you.
Yeah. You too. And then the lady over here just got stuck in her wheelchair trying to go across the grass in a park. So I had to help her out with that. But anyway, I lost my train of thought now. So again, with these girls that you really want, so to speak, it's about tempering your desire and not letting the highs get too high and not letting the lows get too low. If you see a girl that you really want, you got to slow your mind down. Get back to that ice in your veins mentality. Just treat her the same as any other girl. Because really, she is the same as any other girl. Think about it biologically. She's just another human being. You know, she's just like any other human. 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 eyes. Takes a shit like you and I do. If you see her in the morning without makeup, she ain't gonna look as good. And that's it's not to get down on women or anything, but it's just the truth of it. She's a human being. So, and they're all humans at the end of the day. So when it comes to these women, you treat them the same as any other, whether they come or they go. It's just that ice in your veins mentality. That's how you do it. You focus on the process. As long as you're doing the right things over time, you're going to get to where you want to go. And if you're at a point where you're confused, you're not really sure what your sticking point is, then you might need feedback for that. You might need coaching or somebody's help on the outside. That's really the biggest benefit of doing anything with coaching, is that it helps you see your blind spots. Generally speaking, you have to shrug off every game that a girl plays, every rejection, every flake, every situation that didn't work out that, you know, you were hoping for it to work out. You got to shrug off all of that stuff, man. It just can't affect you. It's got to be like firing arrows at a tank. I said this in another video recently. It's just got to bounce off you, man. You got to move like a giant. It's another thing I just said in the last video. You got to move like a giant. You got to walk like you're 10 feet tall. You can't let any of this get to you, because there's just too many women out there who will actually be into you and actually have high interest in you. So why are you going to be affected by this girl or that girl doing some goofy shit? It just doesn't make any sense. But again, a lot of you guys haven't internalized this type of mindset, so I wanted to speak on it, because a lot of it comes from just going through the process over and over and over again. And if you think about like your job, some of you guys have worked jobs for 10, 15, 20 plus years, even 5 years, just, even a few years on the job, you start to see the patterns over and over again, right? You start to understand what to expect, and certain things just don't surprise you. It's that type of thing. I've just done this a lot. I've done this so much, whether it's long-term relationships, casual dating. I've just done so much of it that none of it's just really surprising. So it comes off as having ice in my veins because I just don't react. There's no reason to react if you think about it. Why am I gonna get upset? Why would I get flustered by anything? If I'm feeling burnt out, some of you guys deal with like feeling burnt out, take a break, come back to it. These women aren't going anywhere. Just chill, man. You gotta bring like everything down. Just chill and relax. Do what you can to get better, do your part. Anytime you become overly focused on outcomes, you're missing the bigger picture. You're gonna make bad decisions. You're gonna let every little thing affect you, and it's gonna destroy your success over time. It makes a lot of people quit. It makes a lot of people give up. And it just depends where you're at too. Some of you guys are starting from zero, never had a girlfriend, can't get any dates. And the benefit of a place like that is just the only way to go is up. Like, you only have room for improvement as long as you take the right steps. But again, that goes back to the process. And then for you guys that are more, so I don't know, intermediate or advanced, let's call it that. If we want to call it beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you get dates here and there. You're not necessarily getting like the women that you want, that kind of thing. You got to evaluate yourself, see where you're at. What can you improve? You may need to move. You may need to start doing things in life that are just uncomfortable to going out way more, building a social circle, going to more social events, doing more cold approach if that's your thing, building a better online dating profile. Everyone has different methods in different ways of going about this. But if you're trying to get results that you've never had, it's like a rule of thumb for life, right? You're just gonna have to do something that you've never done before, and it's always gonna involve discomfort. It's never gonna be easy. So if you wanna reach those upper echelons of success, whatever you measure as success, you gotta do those things, and you gotta have ice in your veins along the entire path to get there. You can't let anything affect you. You just gotta be resilient. And that's honestly, if I had to pick out like one flaw that I see the most with guys out of anything, it would be a lack of resilience. Guys get discouraged so easily. They give up so easily. They throw in the towel so easily. And this is why I think like very negative dating content does really well online. If I was gonna change this channel up and I was just gonna like whine and cry about women all day, I'd probably have 1 million subs in like 6 months. The negative stuff does so well on YouTube because it's very easy just to slip into a negative mindset and to get very discouraged and just give up and quit. It's very easy just to sit there and talk about theory online. This study says this study says that, that's why I'm screwed. Things like that, right? But then if you actually audit these guys and you ask, okay, how many interactions do you actually get in every week? Let me see your online dating profile. Is it actually optimized? Did you do everything you possibly could to make it as good as possible? Let me just see you. What do you look like? I've received one-on-one calls where guys won't even turn on the camera. They're sitting there saying, I struggle with girls, I can't get any dates, and the camera's off. And I'm like, brother, turn on the camera. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And now I don't want to do that. If you can't turn on the camera on a private call with me as someone that's trying to help you, brother, like, this dating stuff you're in over your head. How do you expect to make it with women and generate sexual attraction and have this woman want to sleep with you when you can't even turn on a camera on a private call with someone who's trying to help you? It just doesn't even make any sense. But there's a lot of guys like this. So you got to be honest with yourself, and the negativity's got to go out the window. That's a really big part of this ice in your veins kind of mindset, is getting rid of all the negativity. I don't care about any of the negativity. I don't care about any of the negative talking points. I don't care about guys online saying, get off the dating apps, get off the dating apps. I'm like, brother, there's a stack of matches right here. There's a stack of matches every single week. Just because it doesn't work for you, and just because you don't know what to do, doesn't mean that needs to apply to all of us. When guys are saying the modern dating scene, it's over, we're all cooked, it's done, it's not worth it. Well, it may not be worth it for you. It may be a struggle for you. But the mentality I like to take is not a mentality of superiority, like I'm just so much better than these guys. It's more so the fact that I'm a natural problem solver. Like I like to solve puzzles. I like to figure out the way to do something. And then I like to find out the optimal way of doing something. I like to build out the blueprint. I like to be the solution finder. Because when I was younger, I used to be more negative all the time. I would always have something to complain about, point out the negatives of things. And that's even a mindset that I still have to fight now sometimes. Like old habits die hard, right? People who smoke 50 years later after quitting, they'll crave a cigarette. You know, you always have to battle certain things. So that mindset will start to creep up on me, but I take control of it quick. I don't let it get any roots at all, you know? And that's another part of having ice in your veins. It's capturing the negativity and spinning it for the positive, spinning it to be a win, recognizing the silver lining in things, or just telling yourself, I'm not going to be this guy that gets defeated. I'm not going to allow myself to be brought down by things. Especially when you're doing the work. I just put out a video on having an entitled mindset, or it should be out by the time I post this. We'll see what order I post them in. But the whole idea is like, if you're doing the work, man, what are you down about? Like you got to recognize your own value. There's girls that'll think you're incredible. Just because this other girl doesn't mean anything. You literally have to have this mindset of like, well, she just blocked her blessing. She just lost out. She literally just missed out. That's how you have to move. And you have to genuinely believe that too. It can't just be some like silly platitude that you tell yourself to try to be, delusionally happy. You got to actually embody that. And that's a big piece of it. But, if you guys like this type of video, let me know in the comments and I can make more of them. But just kind of going off the top here. I didn't really have a plan for this video. It's just a conversation I had. Wanted to talk about some things. But to summarize, you have to strip away all the negativity. You can't focus on the negative. You can't even view things as losses. You have to view things as a learning experience. Damn, now I got a cloud moving in front of my son. You have to view things as a learning experience, or I even hesitate to say a win. Don't even get too high off the wins. Just when you see yourself making progress towards the way you want to go, just view it as that. Just view it as I'm making progress. I'm getting more towards the position I want to be in. Don't go, oh, it's a huge win, let's go, baby. Because then when something negative happens, you'll be like, oh, never mind. Never mind. It didn't work out as good as I thought I was going to. I'm not really that guy. Maybe I had it all wrong. Maybe I had the wrong image of myself. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. That's why I make these types of videos, because guys really let it drip into their self-esteem. It's like a toxic leak. It's like if you had a faucet with just toxic water leaking out of it. It's just filling up the sink. It's filling up their self-esteem with toxicity. And it's just no good. You can't let that shit get on the inside of you. You got to be colder than that. You got to have ice flowing through your veins. And the more you do it and you keep taking the right actions day after day after day, and you become accustomed to the process and you have the right mindset, you'll start shrugging off these things. So anyway, I'm going to cut this one off because the sun is killing my vibe. I lost my sunny, nice day. I'm gonna have to move somewhere else. But anyway, if you wanna work with me, first link in the description, check out the coaching program, put in a quick application, and we can chat more about your situation and see if it's a good fit for you. And with that said, I will see you guys in the next one.